It's on.
It still says loading. Publish. Go.
Okay. So, sorry starting a couple minutes late, but I want to tell the home audience the reason, as well as the live audience. It's interesting, we came into this Yeshiva's Otzer, and it's always going over different, let's call it Svarim construction. And there were piles of Svarim which were on the floor, but they had a little piece of cardboard separating them and the floor. And it was said over from a posek that really that's not good enough. You find in certain circumstances, you'll find, farm stores, you might find in, especially youth farm stores, people's houses, people sometimes who pile svarim, one should definitely not do it on the floor, even if they have like a raised stage or something, but a place where people walk on top of, a ledge. But also, if it's any level people would step on, that's not the proper kavod. And we had to redo this farm here. We put them in boxes. Once they're in the box is an entity unto itself. So that gives more kavod to the sefer than just a little piece of cardboard on the floor.
So are these levels that we have on the bookcases here okay?
Yes. In a bookcase, it's the same thing. It's an entity, and you're keeping this farm an entity versus just on the floor. Questions if you put a sefer on a bench.
And instead of having a 3 or 4 inch thing, if I just had a piece of cardboard as part of the bookcase, that would have been okay?
There's some bookcases where that bottom shelf
is
really...
If it's really thin, but it's still part of a bookcase, that would be okay. Yes. Now, in terms of today's regularly scheduled topic, today's share is entitled Kavod Malchus, from Egypt to England and modern times. Now, those who came earlier heard that Willie was playing in the background, Hail to the Chief, and America hopefully will be experiencing tomorrow the inauguration of, what number are we up to? 47, 45 times 2, whatever. But the 47th president of the United States. And I thought it was a good time to really go through these halachos. Anything. I forgot to bring a chumash. Would you, Hessa, thank you very much. I think, really the concept of Kavod Malchus is a timeless concept from way, way back. And if anything, we could debate, do we still have Malchus today? I'm sure there'll be a lot of pageantry in a presidential inauguration. I heard that they're putting it indoors versus outside because of the crazy cold weather. It's hard to feel it in Florida, but they say it's very cold over there in Washington. And they're doing, I think, inside the Capitol. So there is precedent. They've done that before. But really the concepts of Kavod Malchus date back thousands of years. And really, we see this in multiple places, but it's Nogea this week's Parsha. So let's start from there. We could find sources in Sefer Bereshis for the concept of Kavod Malchus in the Rishonim. But let's start with this week's Parsha. Okay? This week's Parsha, you have a showdown with Moshe Rabbeinu and Paro. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu is coming to Paro, and famous words, let my people go. And Paro's first response is, Mi Hashem Esha Eshma B'Kolo, who is Hashem? I should listen to him. Obviously, a degrading thing to the Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Moshe Rabbeinu is representative of Hashem, and Hashem is about to unleash his fury against Paro. So I would think in a situation of Moshe Rabbeinu with Paro, he's a Rasha, he's killed Jewish people for decades upon decades. He doesn't deserve Kavod Malchus. I would think so. But if you look, I'll bring you first to Rashi, Perek Vav Pasuk Yud Gimel. Vayidaber Hashem Moshe v'Aaron. Hashem spoke to Moshe and Aaron. Vayitzavim b'nei Yisrael v'ol para melch Mitzrayim lahotzis b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim. So Rashi says over there, Pasuk Yud Gimel. Vayitzavim b'nei Yisrael v'ol para melch Mitzrayim. Tziva olav l'chalak lo kavod b'dvarim. Hashem commanded Moshe Rabbeinu, you're going to be speaking to Paro. You're going to be speaking to this king. Make sure you speak to him with kavod, because he's the king. Despite the fact he's going to say things degrading to Hashem. Despite the fact he's a tremendous Rasha. He's killed so many Jewish people. Right? This is the modern day. You're speaking to Hitler, Yimach Shemo. But if has a standard of a king, we'll debate later what modern day people have, but by Paro, with no less blood in his hands than Hitler, to a certain degree. You're speaking to Paro. Paro deserves Kavod Malchus. Rashi, this week's parsha, comes up a couple other times, goes back really to the past week's parsha we laned, Perek Hey Pasuk Gimel. Moshe first goes to Paro. The lashon is Vayomar Elokei Ivrim Nikra Aleinu Nelcha No Derech Shalosh Yom Midbar V'Nizbecha LaHashem Elokeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu tells Paro, let me take my people out and we'll sacrifice for 3 days for Hashem. Penifgeinu Badever O Becharev. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu is already putting down a threat. You don't listen to us, plagues might come. But sounds like from the way Rashi learns, he didn't put the effects of the plague directly on Paro. They're talking to Paro. They should have said, maybe Hashem will smite you with the plague. The Malchus were going to affect Paro too. But it's not befitting to threaten the king. You'll threaten in general, it's going to befall Egypt. But to pinpoint, to circle on your radar, that plague is going to hit you, the king, Paro. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say that. To give out honor to the king. I'll show you one more Rashi, Perek Yud Aleph, Pasuk Ches. It says also, Moshe Rabbeinu, this is by Makas Bechoros. He says, "V'yordu kol avodecha elei elai v'ishtachva li lemor tseata v'chol ha'am asher baraglecha achrei kein eitzei v'yeitzei para b'chariaf." So Moshe Rabbeinu says, everyone's going to be screaming at us, "Get out, get out, get out!" by the end of the Makos. Says Rashi, "V'yordu kol avodecha." Who's going to be running, begging us to leave? Kol avodecha, Paro, all your servants. Cholik kavod l'malchus. Rashi says a third time in these parshios. This is giving honor to the king. We all know what happened in the middle of the night. Josh doesn't know. Paro is who came to Moshe Rabbeinu.
What was he wearing in the middle of the night?
Paro in his pajamas, Rabbi Alter would say and sing. Paro came himself. I would use the words b'chvodo v'atzmo. Not really. It was not b'chvodo to come in his pajamas. But Paro came himself in the middle of the night to Moshe Rabbeinu. So why is it? And Moshe knew that would happen. Hashem informed him. So why didn't Moshe tell that to Paro? It's not befitting to say that to a king. Hey, buddy, you're going to be begging me. You're going to be coming in pajamas in the middle of the night. If Moshe would say that would be degrading to Paro. And Moshe went out of his way not to degrade Paro. So you see, from the times of Egypt, the concept of Kavod Malchus made it that I'm a Jewish leader. I'm Moshe Rabbeinu. I'm representing Hashem. Again, I'm speaking to the evil tyrant. Nevertheless, there's a certain dignity, honor that you must give him, even if you would think he doesn't deserve it, because it comes with the position. No matter what you think of him, the position itself, you're Melech, and that innately deserves Kavod Malchus. It's quite impressive. This Yesod, Paskin off these Rashis. We'll see more of the halacha. But the concept that a king deserves honor is black and white in the Rishonim. You see here in this week's Parsha. Parsha is here dealing with Moshe and Paro. Now I'd like to go to the Shulchan Aruch for phase 2. Right? My description was we're going to go from Egypt to England and modern times. Now, when I'm taking a trip to England, England is just the most famous of the monarchies. But we know all throughout Europe, Russia, there always were kings, leaders. And the question is, how does one react to those leaders, those kings? Talk about Jewish kings.
Prayer for the Tsar.
Yeah.
They had it. Sitters.
Yeah, no, but not only that. I mean, England, the sun never sets on the Union Jack for many millennia. Almost.
So I want to read through.
It's a long time.
I should really go through the Gemara and Brachos, but let's start with Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch. This is Siman Reish Chav Daled towards the end of Chelik Beis, talking about Hilchos Brachos. The Mechaber writes, Al Malchi Yisrael Omer. If you see a Jewish king, you make a bracha, right? Let me preface this. There are halachas of potentially making brachos if you see a Talmud Chacham who's Chad Bedora. And through the ages, there's a Rav in Lakewood, Rav Nachum Savitz, has a great share. I've heard it multiple times from him, how he used to pepper Reb Chaim Kanievsky with these questions of who could you make the bracha on for the past 30 years, 40 years. He was asking these shalos to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. He's older than me. So he learned to Panovich, he used to go. And Chaim said you should make the bracha on, I remember for sure, Rabbi Yoshev. So brought down, he said you should make a Rabbi Yoshev even when he was older and his mind maybe wasn't as sharp as it was earlier. He said you still should make the bracha on him. Later in life, it seems there's from Nachum Savitz from Lakewood who make the bracha on Chaim Kanievsky himself. But there's a bracha to make when you see Chad Bedora, a tremendous Talmud Chacham. What did I see? I saw Ben Zion Abba Shol, Rosh Hashiva Parat Yosef, a contemporary Rav Avadia. And I believe it said he made the bracha 3 times in his life. This bracha of Shechok Mechach Maso. I'm trying to remember who all the 3 were that he made the bracha on. One of them I remember was Reb Chaim Kreisworth, who was Rosh Hashiva back in the day in Chicago, later became the chief Rav of Antwerp, and later lived in Eretz Yisrael, founded the Merkaz HaTorah over there. I remember he made it on him. The Satmar Rebbe was 2, Rabbi Yoel. And the third, I forgot who the third was, but I do remember this. He didn't make it on his friend's contemporary, Rav Avadia Yosef. But he made it on a third.
These are on rabbis,
right,
not on kings.
Right. So I'm saying there are you find in these brachos at the end of Chelik Beis, the brachos. There are multiple brachos you recite on people. So besides, we get to a king, you would make a bracha on a generational level, Talmud Chacham. Seemingly, if one would meet Ramosha Feinstein, this would have been an appropriate bracha to recite.
So this isn't the once in a lifetime bracha.
Well, right, it could be there are different generational people through the ages.
No. Saying you see Moshe Feinstein, say it.
I mean, multiple times.
Yes.
So it's a discussion. If you don't see within 30 days, maybe to redo it. But yeah. Now,
Did you ever see it done?
did I ever see this bracha done? No. But I don't know that everyone makes it nowadays. You might need some Moshe Feinstein was I'm saying was a figure that was a generational. It's not necessarily just who has the schus to be the manig. It has to be quite a high stature. But anyway, so Al Malchi Yisrael Omer, one would see a Jewish king. He makes the following bracha: Baruch atah Hashem, Kinu Melech Haolam, Shechalak Meikvodo Lireyav. That Hashem gave out part of His honor, part of His kavod Lireyav to those who fear Him. Val Malchei Umos Haolam Ovdei Kol Chavim Omer. What happens if you meet a non-Jewish king? You'd say Baruch Shenasu Mikvodo Lebasa V'Dam. The language is switched ever so slightly because you're talking about two different individuals. By a Jewish king, Hashem gave from His kavod li'reyav, someone who fears Him, God-fearing Jew. When it's an Ovdei Kol Chavim, then it's Baruch Shenasu Mikvodo Lebasa V'Dam. Even to a simple man of flesh and blood, not a fear of God, but Hashem does give from His kavod. This person's a king, and that's why you're honoring him. Really, part of this idea, I'll get you in a second, of honoring Paro. He's a Basar V'Dam, he's a Rasha, but he has a chelak of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kavod. At the end of the day, he's a king. And therefore, you meet a person like this, one would recite a bracha. Yes?
What's Hashem saying? Even for a guy?
Yes. Well, no. Yes.
For a guy, it doesn't say.
That was it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good. I believe, though, okay, very important point. Talmidim are being medayik that when the Mechaber says it over, he doesn't say by the guy the Shem Hashem. But I don't think that's the deal. Because Pashib Shat, the way I saw the poskim treat this, is one would make the bracha with the Shem Hashem, even by a Gentile king. Mechaber used the language just to be terse in just contrasting. It's the same language, the same bracha, but for a guy, we change the language ever so slightly. So really, if I was printing the Mishnah Berurah nowadays, according to that understanding, it should say Baruch ... Shenasan, so a person shouldn't think that I'm leaving out the beginning. But no. Pashtas, you would make the bracha very important. The default setting of this bracha is with the Shem Hashem. Huh? Oh, and it's Beferish in the Art Scroll Siddur. It says Baruch Atah Hashem. Do you have a footnote there in the Art Scroll? Someone was telling me Art Scroll has some shitas they published about this. Now I don't know if this is in the latest Siddurim. Art Scroll Siddurim. I've gone through many different versions.
And this
And
one is certainly aged.
do you have anything there?
It says if you see
Your city does look old, I must say.
if you see a melech from the Umos Olam She'ein Alav Shalit. Not even sure. I guess he doesn't have the full power. I'm not sure.
The question is, does Art Scroll say anything? Okay. Someone told me, in yours it doesn't differentiate. But someone did tell me, I see we're checking another Art Scroll Siddur. I assume it's one of the newer versions of the Art Scroll Siddur. There's an...
Pretty new.
Yeah. So there is some asterisk in terms of how one should recite the bracha, which I don't really want to reveal yet until we get to the end of the share, of exactly how to do it. But this art scroll just says it straight with the Shem Hashem, no asterisk. We'll see if in your newer version, if that's the one with the asterisk to it. Now, it's interesting. If you look in the Mishabura in Sifkaton Yud Beis, what does it mean that Hashem gave from his Kavod to these other kings? So the Mishabura writes, Hashaltanim, the leaders, She'ein ol melech alehem, l'shanos devrehem, that they don't have the yoke of a king in terms of changing their words. V'dan v'hari b'mishpat, and they have to judge and kill based on the laws of the country. Mevarech alehem, you would make a bracha on them. Okay? We'll have to talk a little soon about what exactly constitutes a king. Here we see talking about the idea of, okay, how much power do they have? Could they kill? Capital punishment? Could they exempt you from capital punishment? Here the Chafetz Chaim brings, what about the local governors? Does one make a bracha when he meets the governor? So the Chafetz Chaim writes, Tov yashel varich. It's good and proper to make a bracha. However, below Shemu Malchus, without the Shem Hashem. So already here in the Mishabura, you see an idea is that there's two levels of doing the bracha. If you meet a king, there's a madrega on the king to say with the Shem Hashem, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shenasa mikvod l'basar v'dam. What about the governor? Lesser than that. Again, I'm talking still in older times. So there, the Chafetz Chaim is already giving us that he's a lower level. It's not clear he has the same power as a king. So you should make the bracha, but without the Shem Hashem. We'll talk about that.
It would seem even if there's like a viceroy, that you have the king and then the viceroy can be overruled by the king. So you wouldn't say it with Shem Malchus.
Correct. Right? We're going to talk more exactly about what powers and the slight they have. Yeah, what do you have a newer art scroll?
Yeah, it says, upon seeing a Gentile king who rules lawfully, but who cannot be overruled, and who has the power of life and death. It's not too many kings.
Right.
The following is recited.
And did they give any asterisk for any other scenario?
That for a modern day elected ruler, most authorities suggest that one admit the opening clause.
Fantastic. That's the asterisk I was looking for. Very good. We'll talk about that. So in the newer versions of Art Scroll, they put in that, I'll call that asterisk, of where Art Scroll itself is giving you level 1, level 2. An absolute king, full lashon of the bracha. Some nowadays, maybe downgrade it, which is the Mishabru is talking about such an idea. Mishabru is talking about it by some type of governor type situation. Okay, we'll get to that sock from Art Scroll. We'll see maybe where that comes from. Now that's the halacha in Sif Ches. Let's look at Sif Tes for a moment. Very interesting halacha. Mitzvah lishtado liros melachim. You should go and try to see kings. Afilo malchei umas olam. Even kings who are non-Jewish, leading nations. Alan, if you ever get an audience with a king, the king of Monaco, the king of... Sure, of course. Yeah. The king of Jordan. I don't know. We'll see what Alan has his connections. But if you have the possibility to go and see a king, right? You should do it. you should do it. Mechaber says, now it's very interesting. What's the reason for this? That is tomorrow. Good line. Right? But the Gemara in Brachos, very interestingly, the Gemara in Brachos talks about this idea that a person should go and try whatever it means he can to see a king. The Gemara says, Rashi brings on the Gemara there, this is a Gemara on Nun Chesam and Aleph in Brachos. The Gemara says that you know what's kedai to see a king? Because when Mashiach comes, you'll be able to differentiate between a Goyish king and Melech HaMashiach. You see the contrast. So it's good to see a king now, so you have a picture in your mind, the contrast of what we're looking forward to when we see Melech HaMashiach. Like, I don't know any other halachas so simply that we're doing to prepare for Mashiach. Right? Usually we do mitzvos and we do live life because we do the right things unto itself. But Rashi learns one of the reasons that one should put himself in this situation, he should be mishtadel, mitzvah l'shtadel, to see kings, is because it's setting the stage for us to appreciate who the Malchus HaMashiach is going to be. Beautiful. But the other reason, more basic reason, is to give Kavod Malchus. It's an important thing. It's a Kiddush Hashem when Jewish people give Kavod for a Malchus. Now, the Gemara talks about cases where in order to see the king, you'd have to run through some type of cemetery, right? And let's start with a non-Jewish cemetery. So look what the Mishabura writes. Fascinating. Ephraim, I can see you doing this, hopping kavarim. So it says, "Umutal etame b'tuma shel devreim." One would be allowed to matame himself, even a kohen, right? A tuma derabana minei kvodam, bein malchei Yisrael ubein malchei umas olam. If it will take you to see in the 1500s the King of England by running through a cemetery, you should do it. You should run through a cemetery to see the king. Also for the mitzvah of Nicham Averim, one would do this. Then he says, Ro Pamachas Melech, Yivato Yosim Mudel. Right? If you see him once, you shouldn't be Mavato from your learning further. In Moshe Bach, the Chayil Yosef, unless it's a bigger parade. But really, right, you see clearly the Mishabura is reading the halacha of mitzvah l'shtadel means even at the expense of learning. If you would see the King of England in the 1500s, you would shut your Gemara to do it. Mitzvah l'shtadel. You'd be mevatel Torah. Chafetz Chaim's writing, okay, once, you don't have to do it a second time, unless it's a bigger parade.
Still talking about a Melech Mamish.
Yes. Now, I want to show you, I think it's quite fascinating, these halachos. The Mishabura here is telling us that there's a heter here on Tumah D'Rabbanan to violate Tumah D'Rabbanan in order to see a king. And I believe the understanding that the poskim say is when Chazal gozer dinim of Tumah D'Rabbanan, they never made it in this case. So we would forego Tumah D'Rabbanan, the Isser of Tumah D'Rabbanan, in order to allow people to see a king. Batal Torah too. Nacham Madrega. But Dirshu here in the Mishabura brings down, quite fascinating, what about the halachas of a different Isser D'Rabbanan, besides Tumah? So he brings a third line, Avalava Lavata Afil Mitzvah D'Rabbanan, Mishum Kavod Malchus, Kasav Chai Adam, Sha'aser, Afil Mishum Kavod Malchus Yisrael. The Chai Adam says, okay, the heter only applies to Tumah, but any other Isser D'Rabbanan, one would not violate for Kavod Malchus. However, he brings the Magen Avram, Shemishum Kavod Malchus Yisrael Motor Lavar Mitzvah D'Rabbanan. One could violate an Isser D'Rabbanan, according to the Magen Avram, to see a Jewish king. Hilchos Shabbos, to be an Isser D'Rabbanan, you would have to violate in order to see the Jewish king. Zot the Magen Avram, the Chai Adam argues on this though, but the Magen Avram would give you a heter. Not only that, the Ksav Sofer writes it'll be mutter to violate an Isser D'Rabbanan, even to see a Goyish king. Wow. It would be mutter to violate an Isser D'Rabbanan because of Kavod Malchus. Wow. Then they had the whole discussion. The question is, I'll show you further in this Ksav Sofer. The case was, and I checked this up. Really, I should have had Rabbi Fried here for this share. It seems historically the common way Jewish communities through the ages met kings was the following way. The Jewish community would come out to greet the king with the leader of the community, the Rav, seemingly, holding a Sefer Torah to go and greet the king. That is the historical way, it seems, my little historical research, that for hundreds upon hundreds of years, the Jewish communities greeted kings coming out with an entourage, the Rav there in the middle, holding a Sefer Torah. So the question is, on Shabbos, to do that, holding a Sefer Torah would be potentially Hotzah issues. Not Hotzah D'Oraisa, but an Isser D'Rabbanan. Could one do that? The Ksav Sofer was of the opinion, the answer is yes. Because the heter of the Isser D'Rabbanan was not limited, like the Chai Adam says, to Toma D'Rabbanan. No, it applies to other Isser D'Rabbanan. It will be mutter to carry out a Sefer Torah on Shabbos, for the Rav to carry it. Obviously, if you could do it on Sunday, for sure. Well, let's say the one day he's passing through the town is on Shabbos. It'd be mutter for the Rav to come out holding a Sefer Torah. Okay, you can do it without the Sefer Torah. The Ksav Sofer is ready to give that heter, even for a Goyish king. Okay, Lamaisa, I'm not sure. I saw different opinions. Maybe there were some hawks within the Chassam Sofer's family itself. I think he had a brother that was arguing with him. Maybe the Chassam Sofer himself wouldn't have gone to do as far, but Lamaisa, he mastered it.
We don't do that with the Godo, do we?
Huh?
When the Godo comes to town, we don't take a Sefer Torah to the airport.
Right, right. It seems this was an old custom that they did for kings, specifically for kings. They would come with the Sefer Torah to greet him. Look how much cover they were giving. Amazing. Right?
There's an incident in 1898.
Yeah.
The Kaiser visited Jerusalem.
Oh, I'm about to get to that.
Okay. So I won't steal your thunder.
You'll tell me if my version's like your version. So these are all what I would say in classic times, England and throughout Europe, Russia, where they had kings. You see how far the Jewish communities went to honor them and even possibly transgressing Yisur D'Rabbanan in the process, because that's part of giving Kavod Malchus. Now the question is, modern times, what goes on? And you know, I saw recently, right? The Queen of England passed away, right? She got Arichas Yamim because she did something good. For that, I saw they asked a child to the Rosh Yeshiva of Gateshead, Rav Avram Goritz, and he paskined. The lashon I saw was they should shut down the girls' schools during the funeral. I assume that meant it could be clandestinely. The yeshivas went on. I'm not sure, but definitely the younger kids, people went out. They They told him not to do any public celebrations. That for the whole week of mourning, there shouldn't be any Hachnas Sefer Torahs or chuppahs in the streets. But everything should be covered for the queen. And for the day of the funeral itself, he said they shut down businesses and they even shut down a girls' school. You brought up Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld. So I want to tell two stories. I found a story that Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld was the head of the old Yishuv, Eretz Yisrael, pre the state. Yeah, the old Yishuv. And supposedly he once was in a tent with the king of Jordan. And he did make the bracha on the king of Jordan, I believe with the shame. Yeah.
The one that was assassinated.
But Yosef Chaim was in the early 1900s?
He didn't become the king of Jordan until like 1923, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so that could coincide.
Yeah, there was no Jordan prior to that time.
Okay.
It was created by the British.
The British.
Yeah.
But he also had a situation where Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany came to Israel, and they came to Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld. We have precedent of hundreds of years of the Jewish community going out to greet him. Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, the old Yishuv, he was the leader. He refused to go. I think I once mentioned this in a share. You'll see in a moment which share it was. But he refused to go. Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld said he had a Masorah from the Gra. Right? The old Yishuv of Eretz Yisrael was very much based on the Gra. The Talmidim of the Gra were the ones who started the old Yishuv. That's why till today, there are many minhagim of the Gra which go on in Yerushalayim, the old Yishuv, because that's where it comes from. So Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld said he had a Masorah from the Gra, that the Germans are a Suffolk Amalek. The Germans might be what the Torah refers to as Amalek, and the din of Kavod Malchus does not apply to Amalek. Interesting. The Egyptians it does. Power we do, but not Amalek. And he refused to go because of that.
Did Amalek exist at the time of Bible?
No.
Concept?
No.
Not till the Torah.
No. Well, not right. Not till later, till after, right.
But he didn't go because Suffolk Torah. So.
Yeah. Now, I want to show you what I found for Moshe Feinstein. Moshe Feinstein, he doesn't have any tshuvas about this topic, but I found they've been publishing the notes of Moshe's Gabayim. Really, mostly it's the notes of with Mordechai Tendler in a series. They already have 4 volumes called Masoras Moshe. Now, I'm not sure fully how it was produced. Maybe I should read better the Hakdamas, call them. But each volume is a volume unto itself. It does the same basic thing. But what that really means is they took notes from different kufas and they published them. Now, I'm not sure if it was published chronologically. That means were the earliest volumes the earlier notes of Ramosha? Or not? It could be the earlier volumes with later notes. So I have to read up on it better. So I'm not sure I have a chronological picture of Moshe Feinstein's opinion. But there are 2, to me, contradictory opinions that Moshe gave about making these brachas in modern times. I'll read to you the 2 tshuvas. I'll read to you the first one in Chelik Beis, because that was published first, in the bottom of your sheets. Sorry for the small print. I want to fit it in there, the whole picture. This is Mordechai Tendler writing. B'motzi Shabbos Kodem Shal Yitzarech Mar Begin Rosh HaMemshala B'Yisrael Lovel Rabbeinu. Prime Minister Begin was going to come and visit Moshe Feinstein. The night before, Moshe's Gabbai turns to him and had a discussion. He says, hey, do we make a bracha? You're going to have the Prime Minister of Israel coming to visit you. Do you make this bracha? Zok der Moshe, Vam Rabbeinu Bevadi Ish Kazeh, Shemaymin B'Hashem. Begin was someone who was respected, that he believed in Hashem. Avim Eno Shoma Mitzvos, even if he was not keeping kashrus to the way we do. Makom Makom, Harbi Yosef told me I'd be Karsim Shalom Aminim. He's much better than the others.
Ben Gurion.
Yes. Kamo Akdomus b'Mishal Shalosh Mimshalah, like the earlier versions. So he said, does a Rosh Mimshalah have a din of Melech Yisrael? Does a prime minister have a din of a king in terms of bracha? So answers Rav Moshe, no. Because the Chavrei Knesset could take him down. He doesn't have absolute power. He could easily be removed. So, and he contrasts, Rav Moshe said, he doesn't have the power of the President of the United States. So then that led Rav Moshe into discussion, okay, so if you meet the President of the United States, doesn't want to make a bracha. And Rav Moshe said, I was debating this about one of the presidents. He says, look what it says in the parentheses. Roosevelt. Or Misho Acher. Moshe had this shaila back in the times of Roosevelt, FDR. If you should make the bracha. He says, the President of the United States, Moshe was, he didn't read the newspapers, but he knew what was going on. He says, President of the United States, he has more power than most of the kings in Europe. For sure. And then he goes further. This is a beautiful discussion. How it goes from the Prime Minister of Israel, the President of the United States, to the Queen of England. He said, Malchus Anglia, Shebe'emes ein l'koach amiti. The Queen of England, she has no power. Rak mitzad hasheni me'acha she'nivchar. Right? Sorry, there he just contrasts that the Queen of England doesn't really have any power because she's not the ruler anymore of England. But then they were hawking about the president that, okay, but the president has to be appointed. He didn't appoint himself, so that's not absolute power. And then he says, you have people who embarrass the president. Right? Call them names. They definitely didn't have that in the kings in the times of the Gemara. You can't mess with the king. He says, but also, now he contrasts back to England. He says, at least by England, they have the hode, they have the glory, they have the honor. They dress a certain way. They have the etiquette. They definitely don't have that in America. But, so, Lamaisa, you look at the end, Siyam Rabbeinu, She'in Levarech, you should not make a bracha with the Shem Hashem, Shesafik brachas lahakam. Rav Moshe concludes in this tshuva, end of the day, do we make it on the President of the United States? Nah. Right. On the President of the United States, Queen of England. A king, Pashtas, needs two things. It needs the power of a king, and it needs the pomp, the glory of a king. In England, you have the glory without the power. In America, you might have the power, but you don't have the same glory. Okay. But here Rav Moshe is saying, Salvik brachas lahako, will not make the bracha. And I believe, Ed, that's why you found in your art scroll sitter to make this on the king. What are they having? Rabbi Dr. Berman from YU is going to be there giving them the blessing, the benediction, together with some Muslim imam by the inauguration. Yeah. But to make the bracha with the Shem Hashem, according to this piece from Moshe, it would seem not. However, I found another piece in the Chelak Dalet. And again, I'm not aware of the chronological order. Would one psak outweigh the other psak? But here, he's talking about making a bracha on the king. I'm reading from the middle of the piece. Ve'eshiv Rabbeinu shebevadi yish levarech yish lekoach malchus mamish. Rav Moshe said nowadays an American king, Nasi Sha'artz Bris, he has a koach of malchus, but he doesn't have the hold of malchus. Moshe says that one factor is enough. The fact he has the power, even though he doesn't have the pomp, glory, that's enough. But Moshe goes even further. Even a governor, maybe even knew some, you would make this bracha. Moshe hears it's on. Then he goes back, what about England? Yeah. He says, yeah, you can make a bracha over there. So in this piece, to me, it's contradictory to what he wrote in the other piece. It bothered me because I saw one modern day sefer quote Ramosha, I think wrongly, that Ramosha said, yeah, you would make the bracha. And he quoted both pieces. Right, I think it's contradictory. In Chelik Beis, he says not to, but in this Chelik Daled one, Ramosha says one would. So practically speaking, I would say it's not pashut, and that's why Art School did the right thing by putting in that asterisk, because this way we do, if there's a shiloh about brachos, especially a shiloh within Ramosha himself, unless Reuven Feinstein or some close Talmud or Ramosha today could clarify, but I would think it's something brachos lahakal, you would say, Baruch shenasan mikvodo labasar v'dam. Yes.
I mean, the idea that says Roosevelt.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And there was this bomb that was introduced after him that makes the President of the United States significantly different than when it was Roosevelt. So, like, isn't just that...
It's just that very interesting point.
I mean...
Right, you're talking about the fact that the president has the power to drop a nuke.
This is an entirely different
very interesting
situation.
Yeah.
Just the fact that it says Roosevelt versus anybody after.
Wait, Harvey, I see we have good historians over here. Here and there, guys. Moscow. I want to just add with one thing. I did see one shita that seemingly kuli alma you can make on the American president, maybe even especially the president-elect tomorrow. According to everybody, you can make this bracha with Shema Malchus. Baruch atah Hashem, Elkeinu melech haolam, Shelo asani goy. On Purim, we dance, on Simchas Torah, we dance here in Yeshiva, and we say Shelo asani goy. So one of the Rebbeim is famous for stopping in the middle, like Shelo asani goy. Even, he's like with different sports players or this, but even Trump, yes, even Trump, we can make a bracha Shelo asani goy with Shema Malchus Kavana. I wouldn't say it to his face, but you could have him in mind tomorrow morning. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful week, and we should be all zocha. Whoever is the president, Hashem should bless him that he should take care and help